I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and it's time to get wealthy. You're going to learn exactly what you need to do to finally achieve the level of financial success that you deserve. Imagine if you had learned how to invest from kindergarten to 12th grade. Well, the truth is, half of American schools don't even teach financial literacy. And that's why I'm excited about our conversation today, because you're going to learn about a woman who took matters into her own hands and is teaching middle schoolers and high schools how to invest, and now is taking that financial literacy mission globally. And so here are the three things they don't want you to know about how to build generational wealth. The first thing is that investing begins at home. You have to find a way to teach your kids how to invest early. And one of the ways you can do that is by opening up what's called a custodial account, which allows them to invest. And another way to get your kids started early is by gifting them stocks at holidays and birthdays and encouraging your family to do the same. On Wealthy You, we've got a framework of success, and it all begins with mindset, strategy, and execution. And that's exactly where we're going to start with our guest today. Sabrina Lamb is a pioneer in financial literacy. She launched the World of Money to show middle schoolers and high schoolers how to invest. And I'm so excited to have her on the program with me today. And I just want to say, Sabrina, welcome to Get Wealthy.
Deborah, it's an honor to be here. Congratulations on your amazing legacy of empowering women and the world.
Oh, I appreciate that. But I want to talk a little bit with you just about your own mindset and how your own beliefs around money have really put you on this path to encourage others and kids specifically and teach them how to invest in about the financial markets. So let's start there.
Sure. So 17 years ago, I was minding my own business. I was really living a creative life as a performer, a media commentator. But 17 years ago, I was in attendance to a financial workshop for myself. And sometimes in life, you receive an aha moment. And the whisper came, Deborah. And the whisper said, what if children, particularly those who look like you, could learn what you're learning this weekend? And then the second question came, Sabrina, how different would your life have been if you had received financial education as a child? Well, Deborah, it would totally different. It would be totally different. Number one is because I was the financial sociopath in my family. Yes, I was. And I was in charge of the consumerism and the spending, and the co-signers on this were my parents and my grandparents and extended family. So particularly the parents in your audience can relate to this reality, is that your children will never sit you down and say, Mom, Dad, could we have a talk about how we can lower the expenses in our household? Could we start talking about and planning for your retirement so that you have a cushion and so that you don't have to live with me? No, children will never say that because they really don't care. But they also understand the power of money, Deborah, because why? They have been watching from their cradle how the adults in their lives have interacted with this powerful currency. And they know every time dad reaches into the wallet or mother reaches into her purse, it's party time. And it's time for everyone around me or us to be able to make sure all of my wants and fantasies are fulfilled. And so that was my role. Now, I will add, Deborah, that, when I would visit my family in Miami, and every year it was shopping time and brand new wardrobe, because everyone needs a brand new wardrobe every year. My extended family was so financially educated. They own their own homes. They would leave a vacation early to go home and pay a bill. Their funerals were prepaid and planned, but they didn't share or insist that I adopt those same type of behaviors, because out of love, they were making sure that all of my wants were satisfied. And so that's how I came into this space. I looked around and see what was out there. And so even 17 years later, Deborah, World of Money is the leading provider of immersive financial education for children ages 7 to 18. We provide 120 online and classroom hours of financial education.
Woo! Now that, and I am sure, Sabrina, that so many people can relate to that. But I really think that it's interesting that it's almost if, and I think that many in our audience are going to be able to relate to that. We may learn the lesson, right, about becoming financially literate and build our financial acumen. And somehow in our minds, we feel like we need to create this middle class nirvana because we struggle. Now that we're no longer struggling, we feel like we want to create this for our own children. So is that what you're conveying, that your family really wanted to kind of live vicariously through you so that you didn't experience the struggle?
Deborah, you are spot on. This thing called financial education is spiritual, it's emotional. And most breathing people have an emotional relationship with their money. And so many parents, or even ourselves, we use this powerful currency, besides love or a spiritual practice, to fill the emptiness in our lives, or that we feel that's in our lives. And so many parents, when it comes from a parent perspective, they don't want their child to feel any discomfort or any lack, or I don't want my child not to have any discomfort regarding what I did have or didn't have. And the best, I believe, after this work and hearing from thousands of parents around the world, it's the best action that a parent could take is to prepare their child to be eagles, to be able to helm this powerful currency. Because as we know, it's not financial or immersive financial education is not taught or shared widely. So how are we going to prepare for the realities of living a financial life without allowing our children to fly, to be eagles, to take responsibility, to understand the difference between needs and wants, and not be so enamored with consumerism and everything that's on our social media and so forth?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because one of the things you just mentioned was the power of being immersed in financial literacy and actually experience it. So what advice would you give parents on at what age should they start exposing their children to investing? And what are the first steps to do that responsibly?
Sure. They should start at birth. Because for all of us that have taken, for example, a foreign language, for example, Swahili or French, or it's a lifelong education in language, applying the culture behind that language so it's not an intellectual experience. And so as your child, your baby is watching you, and maybe, your spouse or whomever argue about the money or turn their lights off or telling lies, I don't have that money. And you really do have the money, because the child say, I know you have the money, so don't say you. So, changing the dialogue that you have in the household to lower the temperature regarding this conversation and say, well, no, we're not going to purchase another pair of sneakers. And particularly because you're only a consumer and you should be an entrepreneur or an investor. We need to have that conversation. But here's our money plan. And dear child of mine, I would love your input in terms of how much can we save so that we are prepared when life happens. And how can we shift as a family? And I love your opinion, dear child of mine, so that we can extend a legacy so that not only am I, as a parent, I'm safe and I'm secure, but you as well. So every month or every 2 weeks, we are going to have a family business meeting, and we're going to discuss and lay out all the bills, all the liabilities, and call them what they are. So for example, Deborah, I have a closet filled with liabilities, Deborah. Filled. Okay? Those are not assets. They're not growing in worth over time. They're liabilities. And so when you call a thing, as a Jan Van Zandt would say, you identify and perhaps begin to shift what we value. We spend money, we use money on what we value. So if we value those shoes over investing in a business or education or our own financial security, then the result is that we will live a life of financial insecurity. And so sharing, having those very adult-like but sobering and transparent conversations with children only benefits them, so they can indeed become eagles.
This is so intriguing. However, I think, in the work that we do, one of the things that we see is that the parents themselves are not financially literate. They are carrying some of these emotional beliefs and around money. And so then if I don't know, one of the findings that has been really become clear to me over the past 20 years is that knowledge is inherited, right? Mm-hmm. The knowledge of how to build wealth, how to invest, how to be financially responsible really is inherited by our parents or our immediate family. And so to that end, what do you say to a parent who's listening to you and says, yeah, I'm guilty of this, Sabrina. However, if I don't know what to do with my children and how to, share this budget and get my own act together so I can be a good role model, where do I start?
Sure. So I wrote a book called Do I Look Like an ATM? A Parent's Guide to Raising Financially Responsible African-American Children, although it applies for all children. And it's so important for parents to eliminate any shame or embarrassment that you may feel because you want to be or appear to be or are, the hero, the financial hero and the hero in your child's life. And so here's the deal. Children already know what's going on in the household financially. They know that the bill collector, you're hiding from the bill collector. They know, or they feel it. And so parents need to just understand that your children love you as you are. They don't love you for what you don't know or what you do know. And this is an opportunity to strengthen the bonds between a child and their parents when you're having this very holistic and honest conversation, because they'll remember that together as a family, we determined to learn together. In my book, Do I Look Like an ATM? There's different parental archetypes. For example, the martyr, which usually shows up with women who are raising children alone, and they feel they must sacrifice everything for their child to show how much they love their child. And what happens is that child believes that they need to sacrifice themselves. Girl children believe that, particularly for their relationship, and little boys believe that's what women should do. The women should sacrifice themselves for us. No. And then, for example, the Disneyland parents, they want to, pretend that everything is wonderful. We're going to go to Disney World when, the rent or the mortgage has not been paid, or we don't have a 6-month emergency fund, but we want to do it because we want to feel momentarily great. And so what we're saying is that, feel the feeling of embarrassment, or that you feel that you're not a hero to your child, or you won't be loved by your child for what you don't know, is totally inaccurate. In fact, being transparent and honest and sharing with your child and inviting them into this conversation is the best demonstration of your love. and being a real hero. Heroes are not they can absorb anything and reset and to do better.
That is so powerful, just for parents to understand themselves and their role in really creating, financially responsible children. And so when we come back, I want to get into, we've talked about mindset and where you gained your own beliefs. And all I got to say is thank goodness you went to that financial literacy class and had this aha moment, because I often say you cannot change what you will not acknowledge. And so to that end, when we come back, I want to talk to you a little bit about the strategies that you've really put in place to help others through World of Money. And by the way, you can go to worldofmoney.org. That's worldofmoney.org to learn more about what this amazing woman, Sabrina Lamb, has been on this journey in helping others become financially literate. So we'll come back.
Let's be honest, as successful women, we're crushing it. Maxed out 401k and Roth IRA? Check. Aggressive savings and investments? Check. Yet, the freedom our success was supposed to buy can leave us stuck on the six-figure hamster wheel, watching retirement slip further down the road. There's another way. Get coaching courses and community at wealthyu.com.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Deborah Owens, and it's Get Wealthy, and we've been having a fascinating conversation with Sabrina Lamb, who is the founder of worldofmoney.org. She's a former broadcast journalist and performer, but she's also blazing trails in a new area as well and taking her mission globally. And Sabrina, thank you so much for joining us today, because I really believe that the whole conversation about generational wealth really begins in this generation that we're in and in the family, if you will. So I want to talk to you a little bit about strategy. So here you are, you have this aha moment. You found worldofmoney.org. And what did you, since founding that 17 years ago, what have been the best strategies that you've seen for children? Certainly you're working with middle schoolers and high schoolers, but how that really, the strategies that you're using with families to make sure that everyone, right, is able to accomplish financial freedom, if you will.
Sure. Well, you must start with children must see themselves in this powerful currency. So at World of Money, and we're registering now, parents can register their children ages 7 to 18 on our website for our annual Youth Financial Education Training Institute. But we teach the financial history of money. Financial education includes history. And so our children learn about African billionaires and how they were able to live in a very, financially stressed environment to becoming, world and global leaders. And in the American, African-American history, they need to see, or hear Jeremiah Hamilton, who was one of the early participants on Wall Street in the early 1700s, or Maggie Walker, African-American woman who owned her own bank in Virginia in the early 1900s. And so it's important for our children, and I've seen this because sometimes a child will come in our doors and they feel that they're going to learn something that doesn't include them. Well, that's why we lead with that. And of course, then building on their self-esteem, from changing their language from I want, as opposed to I'm determined, and understanding the value between assets and liabilities. And what are the long-term, what's the long-term impact of not having financial education? Because sometimes we forget, oh, I can just, do what I want financially, and there's not going to be any kind of impact on my life or negative impact on my life. And so day one, hour one, that's what we have to, we share with children. Number one, with the lack of financial education, you will experience emotional upheavals through your entire life. When you look across the cities in America, and children that are struggling or aged out of foster care or in negative behavior, if you peel back the layers, you'll see very quickly how money shows up, or the struggle with the economic flow of money or lack thereof in their family, or their value systems are off. And so then from there, we begin to build, the financial history, the flow of money, the impact, the big why. Because why do we say why? Because that's the favorite question for children, is why. And then we start to scaffold out our curriculum from, budgeting or creating a money plan. And again, the why, what is the impact? And it goes all the way up into unpacking the valuation of a company. Everyone is really enamored with investing, and I think that they should. I have a fintech, as you know, called Wakeza. But, can we start with a savings plan first? Can we understand exactly, if you're going to invest, and I do believe that you should, do you know the difference between a stock and a mutual fund? And do you understand, yes, maybe all your friends are investing in that company, but have you unpacked that company? Do they have ethics? Do you agree with the leadership? Are there any scandals? Do they hire people who look like you? What's the valuation of that company that matters you? So at World of Money, as I said, it's immersive, but the big why and unpacking and really understand what we're doing, because if we don't, we have to really understand what is our risk, the risk factor in terms of loss. And what are the benefits as relates to gains. And as you know, Deborah, the African American community have been victims for decades of predatory institutions that specifically target, our communities or those underserved communities, even the military, because the data shows that we're not exposed to financial education. That's another big why, when all of us need to hit the reset button and understand, am I determined, or am I engaging with a predatory company like a Payday or, Rent-A-Centers or all these other companies that specifically target us because the data shows that we don't have or don't value financial education.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, Sabrina, because I really feel that the most important, the most valuable asset of all is the knowledge of how to build wealth, and that financial ignorance is expensive, and that additional, debt that you end up having typically is as a result of not having that knowledge. Now, you launched World of Money more than 17 years ago, and I'm interested, and I'm sure the viewers are too. Has there been anything that surprised you that you learned just in your approach to education? Maybe you thought that you would approach it one way, but what you learned is something works better?
Two points. One is that, because sometimes the buzzword underserved or is used, every child who lacks financial education, no matter what the financial means of the parents, needs financial education. They just have a different interaction with the currency, because World of Money attracts economically diverse families, and no one knows anything. All right, so it doesn't matter. So the other part is that this is a global need. We have, last year, we have students, from around the world, particularly on the continent of Africa. And, according to the Organization of Community and Economic Development, United States is number 17th in the world when it comes to financial education. 17th. Okay, China is number one because that government is intentional about making sure that all of their citizens have financial and entrepreneurial education. And so on the continent of Africa, when there are no social financial safety nets, there's no unemployment office or anything like that, and in most cases, no pension. The only thing that those children can do is to create a business. And so we have found a really robust response from our partners in Senegal, Rwanda, Ghana, or Kenya to World of Money, who attend World of Money virtually every year.
Oh, that's interesting. And I know that it's interesting that you bring that up, because I know that that World of Money has taken you around the world, and that you've taken World of Money really to the African continent. And now you have evolved that into even a new venture, Wakeza. And I'd love if that change in the surprise of what you found as you built worldofmoney.org. And now I know that your YWCA of Chicago actually acquired it because of the robust curriculum and that you've built. Talk to us a little bit about, Africa and this new venture that you've just formed, Wakeza.
Sure. So Wakeza is Swahili for invest. And as a global advocate for financial inclusion and financial education, I was in attendance to a conference in Kenya. And my friends and across the continent, they talk about the same issues that we do: lack of financial education, lack of financial inclusion. And so when I said, how are you able to invest? And they said, well, it's difficult because, number one, if we wanted to invest in our own companies that are listed on our stock exchange, whether it's Ghana or Kenya or what have you, we would have to have the full share. And unfortunately, on African stock exchanges, all companies are not trying to register on those exchanges. But then if I do find a company I want to invest in, whether it's an African company or a U.S. publicly traded company, I need to have, as an African citizen, the full share amount of that company, and I must pay high fees to a stockbroker, and I don't have any financial education. So I started to think, and boy, oh boy, there's a problem when Sabrina starts thinking. And so the brainstorm came. Wakeza, WEKEZA.com came to life. And so what Wakeza does is democratizes access to investor education, and then will allow you to purchase fractional and or whole shares on U.S. publicly traded companies. Together with my team, we are registered here in the U.S. and soon will launch in Kenya. But that's what we do. So we believe that with Wakeza, and of course my work with World of Money, with Wakeza, we want everyone to invest. But using your brilliant phrase, we don't want you to be financially ignorant. We want you to understand exactly what and why you are investing in that particular company. So we invite everyone to go to wakeza.com and sign up so you can be notified when we launch.
Well, it is interesting, Sabrina, that when you look at Africa and you look at their development just in the finance space, you don't see a lot in the investment area. You do see a great deal in banking, and you have seen a great deal of innovation in just that, in money transfers, because we have such a significant amount of people from Africa here in the US. A lot of that is money exchange. So I'm interested in how you're navigating the kind of infrastructure where you don't have a lot of the regulatory, frameworks that you have here in the US. What would you say to someone who is intrigued by Wakeza and wants to get involved in it?
Sure. So number one, with with Wakeza. And what I love about what's happening on the continent of Africa is that they leapfrogged over the desktop revolution. You know, in the West, in the United States, we all have the laptops. On the continent of Africa, in terms of onboarding everything, it's all done on your mobile phones. But on the continent, there are regulatory requirements. In fact, you know, there are some companies that have launched and they've had grand openings, Deborah, and grand closings because you cannot just, you know, particularly when it comes to investing or any business, you cannot just do business that way. And so we are registered to do business and will form and, you know, have in talks to form alliances and relationships with the Nairobi Securities Exchange and their capital authorities. When you enter into any country, any sphere, you must come with clean hands. And you must adhere to all those regulatory requirements. I will also say that it's a frontier. It's a frontier. It's a new landscape. And so they're playing catch up when it comes to regulatory requirements. And so as they're seeing what the West does, they're making those same kind of requirements in their country as well as they should.
Excellent. Well, you know, I'm excited about the fact that you had already expanded globally with worldofmoney.org, and now you're launching this fintech. You've launched this new fintech company, Wakeza. And so when we come back, I want to, you know, our framework, mindset, strategy, and execution. So I'm sure our viewers would love to know more about what the next phase of Wakeza and World of Money in terms of you executing on your vision. So when we come back, we're going to talk to our guest, Sabrina Lamb, founder of World of Money, and now Wakeza, about how she's going to execute her strategy and bringing these phenomenal financial education and fintech education to the world.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Deborah Owens, Get Wealthy, and we've been having a fascinating conversation with Sabrina Lamb, founder of worldofmoney.org, and now the company Wakeza.com, a fintech application. So, you know, the buzzword, Sabrina, really, we've seen a number of financial apps gain a lot of prominence here in the US. Whether it's stash apps, Acorns, I think was at the forefront where you are able to trade your change. As you look at Wakeza, is the target then for this fintech product Africans themselves or Africans living in the US as well?
Great question. So starting here, launching here, serving well here, and then later tiptoeing across the pond to launch on the continent of Africa.
And so if someone, what is the benefit to someone in using the, can you actually get access to the Wakeza app? And talk to us a little bit about how it's different from the other apps that people may be more familiar with, whether it's Robinhood or again, I talked about Stash App or Stockpile. How is Wakeza different?
So it's different in terms of the team, number one. It's the only invest fintech in America that's founded and led by an African-American woman. That would be me. And then our is very diverse as well. So if that matters to you, that's one aspect. As well as we're very intentional in providing our members with financial and investor education. So important before you invest to understand what you're doing and how you're thinking about it. So we won't tell you what to do in terms of what your risk factors are, but we'll give you the information so you can make those own determinations yourself. So we're also determined, Deborah, to, unlike any other company, is to serve our communities throughout America and the diaspora. We're very intentional about that. Other companies, they have very great marketing dollars and so forth behind them, but they're not intentional about solely serving our community. In fact, they only have a very low percentage participation rate when it comes to African Americans. And so we are determined to, as I said, launch here, serve well here in America, as well as on the continent, as well as through the Caribbean. The same issues, if you're living in Guyana, for example, and you want to purchase a share in U.S. publicly traded companies, when you go to the Guyana Stock Exchange website in red letters, it says you must go to a broker in order to make any investing. And so we believe that at Waukesia, that you should not be denied the opportunity to create generational wealth, to diversify your revenue streams because of citizenship, gender, race, culture, or shoe size. You should be able to do it as well.
Ah, that's interesting. So you've just kind of like given us the framework, really of the Waukesia and how you're different. So when we come back, Sabrina, I really want to talk to you about how you're going to analyze, optimize, and maximize Waukesia for the future, folks. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation, you and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together, so let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Deborah Owens of Get Wealthy, and we've been talking about getting wealthy through financial education, financial literacy, and getting exposed to a new app from founder and CEO Sabrina Lamb of Waukesia. We've shifted gears just a little bit, Sabrina, because clearly you've got a lot going on, but I'm fascinated with Waukesia because I really believe that fintech has the opportunity to reach millions, and that it can jump over some of those hurdles, if you will, of people who might not necessarily have the tech, the hardware. The fact is, everyone in emerging countries have phones. And so my first question is to you. You talked a little bit about the fact that Africa's jumped, kind of leapfrogged over the desktop. Talk to us about how that the fintech mobile application is going to allow you to optimize in this country.
Mm-hmm. So optimize it is through service strategic partnerships, particularly with HBCUs. We see Waukesia, Deborah, as a social impact company. It's a fintech, but social impact. And so we will, donate proceeds to HBCUs, provide investor education forums for them, create internships where we can hire students from HBCUs. So we optimize it. We optimize, our growth and scalability through service and strategic partnerships.
And so I'm intrigued, and I'm sure our audience is too, Sabrina, just about the launch and how it's going. So give us just a sort of an overview of how you launched, when, Where are you now, and what do you see in the future?
Right. So we have a crowdfunding campaign. We're meeting with investors. Anyone would like to invest or get involved, please email me at sabrina@wakeza.com. We are determined to launch this year. And so we encourage anyone that would like to get involved or learn more just to email us directly at wakeza.com.
Okay, so you're in the midst of really building out Wakeza and your growth. You want to launch it this year, and so talk to us a little bit about the launch will be here in the U.S. and then you'll move over into Africa.
Yes, there's no start date on the continent of Africa because we must do well here. You must build it and serve and immerse ourselves in community. We must do well here. That's correct.
Oh, this sounds exciting. Now, before we go, I think I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about worldofmoney.org. I know that there are going to be a lot of parents who are listening to this and want to get their kids involved in learning how to be more financially responsible. So talk to us a little bit about how our audience can enroll their kids now in worldofmoney.org and its programs.
So excited. We have 2 parallels tracks that we're offering this year. Fingers crossed that we can return to in-classroom instruction. We're headquartered here in New York. You can go to worldofmoney.org. It's for ages 7 to 18. But if you're not in New York and can't get to New York, we also have World of Money Virtual. That registration is also on our website, worldofmoney.org. But, last year, as we had to make a very sharp pivot, Deborah, to World of Money Virtual, we had historic enrollment with 231 children from 11 states and 2 countries. And it was fascinating to see Muhammad in Dakar, Senegal, partner with Jamal in Oakland and Sinai in Atlanta as they started to develop and prepare their stock valuation presentations for Wall Street professionals, executives. So we're going to do the same thing in person, but we will continue to do World of Money Virtual because the response has been globally. And so parents, please register now at worldofmoney.org.
And then, one of the last question I have for you, because I think a lot of times, people are thinking, how, if I get involved, will my kids, is there a cost? What if I'm a parent who's going to pursue getting my child involved in worldofmoney.org? Give us a sense of what the time and the monetary commitment is like.
Sure. So it's 40 classroom hours in person, and that goes for parents choose which week they would like to attend World of Money in July. And then the World of Money Virtual begins in June, and that spans over 11 days with 2 hours per day because you get, Zoom fatigue online. And so, yes, there is a parent contribution. They're not paying, they're contributing. And so all those details in terms of what the parent contribution payment plans are available that are definitely on our website. But we also say that, we encourage that parents and our students, we call them moguls, that they take this experience at World of Money very, very seriously. It's not a intellectual conversation. It's information, real-time, real-world experience and information that they can apply to their lives and that of their families then and there. And every day there's an assignment for our students, our moguls, to go home and have a conversation with their parents about that theme for that day. It's to empower not only children, but families. It's a holistic offerings and encouraging our children to be not the financial sociopath that I was, to become financial team leaders in their families, whether they're 7 or 18.
That is, amazing. I really am my thought was always, when you get kids involved, how do you get the families too? So I absolutely love the fact that you're calling them team leaders and allowing them to engage with their parents every step along the way. Sabrina Lamb, founder of worldofmoney.org, and now Wakeza, thanks so much for coming on Get Wealthy and helping us do just that.
Deborah, thank you so much, and for all of your years of support. Thank you.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure. And folks, when we come back, I'm going to share with you 3 takeaways from this show that are going to help you get wealthy. We'll be right back. I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network. I'm Deborah Owens, host of Get Wealthy. I hope you enjoyed our show today and that you learned a lot. But here are the 3 takeaways from today's show, all around you understanding how to bring the family together and create generational wealth. Well, first off, start early. And one of the things I believe you can do is begin to gift your children stock. As our guest said today, that financial literacy starts at birth, and why not start out that first birthday with a gift of stock? Secondly, you can open up what's called a custodial account. So if you have young folks who are under the age of 18 or 21 in some states, they can still have investments. You just have to open an account on their behalf. And then finally, and here's what I think it can really accelerate your financial growth, is share with your family members. Rather than them giving your child something of little value that will grow of little value in the future, have them start gifting shares of stocks, or even better, open up a 529 college plan and have your family's members commit to investing in that. And I hope you've enjoyed today's show. I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and I hope you learned how to get wealthy.